All right, Susan, welcome to the InnSync show. We're going to co-host this together. You ready?
I'm ready. This is so fun.
Hey, did you know traditional hospitality sales and marketing tactics have worn out their welcome?
I knew that. I saw that doormat getting all frayed.
Which is why this particular InnSync session is so timely, because we are going to talk about a completely new playbook, which is not necessarily new, but the way that AI and agentic search and things that we've been talking about is so relevant right now. So the landscape has changed, and so much of it, our prospects, so much of what buyers and sellers' journey is now self-directed, and the traditional cold outreach is annoying and it's ineffective. And these outdated tactics, these check-in emails, the RFP roulette, they're losing ground. So enter what we're calling the WINS method. And it's created to align with agentic search in a modern B2B decision-making landscape. So Susan, I'm gonna pass this over back to you. What is this WINS method anyways?
The WINS method is not anything revolutionary, but it's a strategic framework that is going to help hotel sales teams and hospitality vendors really attract and convert, connect and convert. It's like the old inbound marketing methodology, but we've really refined it over the course of the years to be both, like you mentioned earlier, AI ready and human friendly. So the meaning of WINS, it's an awesome acronym, is it not?
I couldn't agree with you more.
It's interesting because the way we've laid it out, like, perfectly aligns with how we need to be doing this. So W, website. You start with your home base always. I is intel. You really need to understand who your prospects are, who your current buyers are, who your potential prospects are. So really diving into the intel of who you're selling to. Nurture. You really want to nurture those leads. So that would be the N. And then you get to the sell, which I think is the most exciting part. So many people want to bypass all the other parts and pieces and get straight to the sell, but it just doesn't work that way. You're going to be building a house on quicksand. It just doesn't work. So we need to build the foundation to get to the sell part of it. That's why we have the WINS method. And the bonus part of it is that it's AI ready, it's trust centric, and it's rooted in, and this was my LinkedIn bio for a long time, human to human marketing.
Yeah, you know what? You were way ahead of that curve when you were using the H2H. Right. Did you know something that most all of us didn't know? So ironically, we're finding out AI is actually encouraging us to be more human. So I find that very surprising and refreshing, by the way. Let's just break it down on why we saw a need. I think you and I both really gravitated to that whole notion of HubSpot's original inbound marketing methodology and really inspiring, educating, and motivating prospects. So when they're ready to buy, they come to those that are top of mind and they've built trust on their own accord and not being intrusive and trying to push themselves on others as a traditional outbound strategy is. And now we're coming around full circle, no pun, because obviously a lot of what's rooted in this is Simon Sinek's famous golden circle, and then traditionally Marcus Sheridan, the famous They Ask You Answer, which is now the Endless Customers, the newest version of that. And what I think we really both appreciate about that methodology is really building, at the core of all of this is building trust. And you don't necessarily need to like somebody, but you have to trust somebody, especially when you're talking about a high ticket item, 5-6-figure product. People just don't buy on a whim like that. So with the success of Endless Customers and all that came along with that and building this trust signals, and now we're seeing this transition into AI, we just felt a need to really embrace this and wrap it around a hospitality B2B framework here. So this is where that WINS method came into play. We're going to dive in now just a little bit deeper into what those letters really mean. So starting with the website, it is the absolute foundation of every business, a vendor, and on the hotel side for what's happening. It is the home base, for lack of better words, where That's where the content is built. First and foremost on the website, suppliers, hotels need to start with what we're calling the core four. FAQs. And when we say FAQs, it's not just the FAQs about your hotel or specifics to the property or even to your product or service on the vendor side, but a deep FAQs on beginning, middle, and end of what that buyer's journey, specific questions that they're going to ask, and then also even basic questions on things that you may have not asked that might be generally relevant to the audience in particular. And so these could be pages of 50 questions, possibly. So something deep on FAQs. Team page. You want to bring out your team first and foremost on the website. Bios, headshots, but we're also suggesting video. Video is going to be a huge component of your website. An easy way to reach out on the website, a short form, and then social proof in the form of testimonials, reviews, but most importantly, video reviews, because as we know now, oftentimes the text and photos perhaps can be faked or are artificial. So we're really leaning into more video, and those are going to ultimately help build conversion, trust, and then help get you set up for agentic search relevancy. So Susan, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, said on your digital front door, Cory, like that. Obviously, you're going to need to refine it based on the specific clients. That is absolutely the must-have. So let's talk about Intel, because the smarter you can sell. Intel is really about using behavioral data to personalize outreach. So looking at it this way, at least with a lot of our hotel clients, they have this humongous list in their sales and catering platform. People that may have reached out to them 2 years ago, for some reason it didn't work out, and then they leave them in the system. So we really want to capitalize on the first party data that you already have. So that's bringing them back into the process of personalizing the outreach to them. Hey, you reached out to us before, let's chat. Another thing that we would like to talk about in the Intel part of it is search intent. There are several tools out there on the market where if somebody's typing in meeting space in North Carolina, we can find those folks and we can do some outreach to them, understanding what people are searching for and somehow connecting with them. And then we want to be sure to really understand how to segment the audience. So you've got people that may have been closed won if you're a hotel sales team and you've worked with them previously and you want to work with them again. So we want to segment them into a specific list. If it's somebody that reached out, it was a closed loss because maybe the dates were off, we want to communicate with them in a specific way. If you are a vendor and you met them at a show 2 years ago, you want to segment them in a specific way so that you can align the messaging and with as much context as possible. So that's the I part of our wins strategy is Intel. So you want to align the buyer intent because more relevance and better timing is going to yield better results when you outreach to them.
Wonderful. And then I believe you're taking the N as well. So
that's right. Yes. So the N, the nurture. And this is like my favorite part of our win strategy. And maybe it should be the selling part, but I really like the nurture part of it because I'm a nurturing gal. It's all about staying top of mind, but without being creepy. You don't want to be that creepy guy. And so many salespeople are like, just checking in. What if you converted that kind of messaging to really delivering value to your prospects? They're going to be less likely to unsubscribe. They're going to be more likely to be engaged, and then more likely to reply and say, hey, I'm ready to go if you have value-driven touch points. So the way we do that is through content that we build through video and text, and we use a really exciting framework. Do you want to know what it's called?
Yeah. Hey, yes.
It's called the R.O.S.S framework.
Oh, hey. Was a little Friends reference in there somewhere?
That's right. That's right. So it's 4 pillars we address through our content. That would be roadblocks or any problems. We want to talk about any problems that our prospects are having, and we want to solve those problems for them, or the roadblocks. We want to talk about objections. We want to talk about our solutions. But the best part of it is sharing the stories of the team, the stories of happy clients that you've worked with in the past. So we rotate through these 4 content pillars, the R.O.S.S framework, to deliver those value-driven touch points. And what I mean by touch points is delivering an email message or a social media message on a regular basis. So often people don't use their email database unless it's, oh, we got to do a blast. Oh my gosh, we've got to do an email blast.
Desperation blast.
I know, it's like, when we hear that, is we don't blast people. What we want to do is nurture them. So we stay top of mind, at least emailing them once a month with something of value. Now, not to say that you can't layer in a sales message on occasion, but you don't want to only deliver sales messages. And then the other part of nurture is when I mentioned earlier about intent, we talked about the intel, we talked about the search intent and finding the people that are looking for the solutions that you're offering, is doing cold outreach, but not the same kind of cold outreach, the spray and pray method. This is more sending them something of value, more so than just a blog post or whatever. Oftentimes we will send a high converting piece, like a PDF or like a guide or a checklist or something along those lines to these people that have never heard of you before, just like for free, and we're not looking for anything in return, just to really get them engaged. So those are the 4 things to help us stay top of mind. And it's really the difference between a cold list and a warm pipeline.
Beautiful. So I believe S is on my list, which is the 4th letter in our WINS method. And what I'm really excited about this in hospitality and other industries has been all this talk about silos, marketing, sales, and then on the hotel side, the revenue. But right now we're seeing finally the integration or the coming together of both marketing and sales, like it or not, because we are seeing a shift of 80+% of the buying journey being delivered by marketing. So what's really exciting about this new methodology is now marketing can be used as little bits and hints of bait, so to speak, in your sales process. And what do I mean by that is, in terms of social selling, is that now you can use your authoritative, value-oriented pieces of content, Susan explained a little bit earlier, video and messaging that helps solve a particular problem that your prospect's having in some of your outreach. So when you do posts on social or you send out your touch points, and then your prospects can click on them, and you can tell through some of the technology platforms who's consuming the content, who's showing some level of intent. So then you can then use those insights and begin to find out a little bit more about them on social. So you can go to LinkedIn, you can find out a little bit more about who they are, maybe engage in a little bit of their posts, or maybe drop some hints on things that you've learned in your CRM that you could then begin to develop a dialogue and a conversation and ultimately move that offline into something, perhaps a discovery call. So those social elements of starting a conversation, building trust, and then beginning to build that momentum. And then also assignment selling. So how awesome is it when you have a conversation or you jump on somebody scheduled a call with you that they're already 80-90% sold when you talk to them. So when they reach out to you, you're not having to start with basic questions. So when you develop this content, this framework, you can use this in some of your automations. So the content can answer 80% of the most frequently asked questions, or you can send them video on how to really educate them. You could simply put qualifiers in scheduling a particular call so you can get really strategic and really best allocate the time. So if somebody does reach out, they schedule some time with you, that the conversations are really deep, they're really meaningful, and that you're so much farther along in the sales process. So there's multiple ways that you can use your content in terms of an outbound or social selling, but also from an assignment selling standpoint. So I believe that those are going to be very popular strategies and concepts. Not that they're not happening right now, but the way that social media and the way agentic search is shaping up, this is really going to hit full stride very soon. The result of all of this is that we're using content and we're using technologies in a very thoughtful and meaningful way so that the prospects are much better educated, the trust is built, and ultimately your conversion rates are much higher. So instead of fielding meaningless RFPs and calls that don't necessarily result into anything, you can expect a much higher conversion rate, anywhere from what maybe was a 5 to 15%. Now it's maybe a 30 to 50%. They may not be as many, but the leads that do come in, they're going to be much better educated, in a much better state of mind to discuss details of what does onboarding look like and the details that go along with a much farther along prospect in that funnel.
And then from a prospect point of view, you are removing a level of frustration, because I think we've talked about this previously. As buyers these days, we live in an Amazon world where you click a button, you get everything that you're looking for all at once. You want immediate answers, you want immediate action. Having content available on your website and on your social channel, they can find what they're looking for. So it removes some frustration. And then by the time they book a time with you, they've already made up their mind. It's just like buying a car these days. It's like you've done all the research. You're just there to sign the document. So from a buyer standpoint, it does remove a lot of frustration and friction. So it really is a beneficial on both sides of it. So that's why it works. And now with ChatGPT and all the other AI tools, when you can type it all in and find what you're looking for, you want to be sure at least not to miss out on that business.
No, absolutely. Timing kills deals. So if you have to wait on anything, you lose that enthusiasm and you want more information, and you go to pricing page and it says call for a demo. How frustrating. Gets back
so
to
frustrating,
right?
So frustrating.
Big time. But we can remove all of those barriers and make a much more seamless experience. And that is actually going to translate into ultimately more to the bottom line, right?
For sure. So if anybody wants to get started with the WINS method, we want to make it as easy as possible to at least dip your toes in. So we want to invite you to mosey on up to the AI at lureagency.com. We have created quite a few graders, so you could plug in a couple of details. We have a vendor website grader, we have a hotel visibility grader, we have a personal visibility grader. We also have a hotel sales content creator, but just getting started just to be how you stack up for now. We obviously have a lot more resources available if you are interested, but this is a great way to get started.
Wonderful. And to wrap this all up, we want to express the urgency of starting on this now. We're not going back to the old days of gatekeeping information. Nothing's going to stop what's coming. And we urge those to really lean into what, ironically, AI is telling us that they want. And that's more authoritative, trust-building signals that ultimately are going to help get you recommended by these AI engines. And Susan, I'm sure you would agree, you want to get started on this journey immediately. Do not wait on this.
Yeah, because as more and more people are dialing into how amazing it is to just type in a question and get an answer differently from Google, because Google just, I know they're layering out their AI overview, but they are giving you sponsored results. What I want is just immediate answers, and more and more people are tapping into that, including your prospects. You want to be sure that you are the content that's being served, and it is trust signals, it's authoritativeness, it's really dialing in, adding as much content to your website that's relevant as possible, answering all the questions ahead of time in post and in content, using our R.O.S.S methodology to help you get found. The sooner the better, because I think that we've already heard of people being laid off and sales teams being laid off, and people, those properties and those vendors that are not even remotely dialed in are starting to lose business already.
That's right. I told you today. I just read that headline. Microsoft laid off 7,000 people just today. So
Wow.
it is coming. You want to be the trusted voice and advisor in your space and make yourself irreplaceable. And this is the way to do it. As always, if you guys have any questions, you can always DM me and we can walk through some of the questions and challenges or questions you have in person. So appreciate you joining me on InnSync. Thank you for co-hosting. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. I know. I'd love talking about this stuff. So it's
I know, right? Yeah, so we'll be back at it again real soon. So thanks.
Thank you.
So is that our wins?